Hello everybody, welcome back to my Knowledge Academy channel. I am Mithu Dey, Public Health Nursing Officer. Today I am going to discuss the circulatory system, and it is the first part of the circulatory system. In this first part I am telling what is the circulatory system, what is the blood, and what is the hemoglobin and structure of the hemoglobin, and erythropoiesis, that means the stages of the erythropoiesis, and so many questions and the answers with the vivid diagram and the pictures. And I think it will be very helpful to the students for your updatation of the knowledge and also for your exam. So let's start. Today's topic is the circulatory system, part 1. Question number 1. Which of the following is excluded in the vascular system? Options: heart, blood, blood vessels, and the lungs. Which one is the correct answer? Yes, correct answer is the lungs. Here, heart, veins, and the arteries. Here, heart, this is the heart, and these blue colors are the veins, and the red color are the arteries. These are the blood vessels. Veins, capillaries, these are the capillaries. Veins, arteries, and the capillaries are the blood vessels. So heart, blood vessels, and the blood are part of our circulatory system, but the lungs are the part of our respiratory system. So lungs is excluded in our vascular system or the circulatory system. What is the circulatory system? Circulatory system, the system that contains the heart and the blood vessels and the blood. And blood transport the oxygen and the nutrients to the body cells, and it also transports the metabolic waste products away from those same cells. That means it contains the heart and the blood vessels, that means the artery, veins, and the capillaries, and also blood. And these blood transport the oxygen and the nutrients to the body cells, and from these body cells, blood also transport the metabolic waste products. What is the blood? Blood is the constantly circulating fluid, and blood is mostly liquid with numerous cells and proteins suspended in it. And the circulatory system is the route by which the cells in our body gets the oxygen and the nutrients they need. But the blood is the actual carrier of the oxygen and the nutrients, and blood is actually a tissue made up of a variety of the cells, and each having a different job. Here, these red blood cells, that means the erythrocytes, carry the oxygen, and the white blood cell, that means the leukocytes. These are the leukocytes, wards of the infection, and the platelets, that means the thrombocytes. These are the thrombocytes. They help the blood to clot. Question number 2. The liquid part of the blood is called options: plasma, hormone, and enzyme. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is option A, plasma. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. This is the plasma, and these are the blood cells. So what is the blood plasma? Blood plasma. This is the plasma. This plasma is inside the blood vessels, and these are all the blood cells. Plasma is outside the blood cell. So it is the intravascular part of the extracellular fluid. When separated from the rest of the blood, plasma is the light yellow liquid, that means the light amber in the color, and it makes up roughly 55% of the body's total blood volume. As it is the liquid portions of the blood, it plays a vital role in many bodily systems, as it facilitates the transportation of the important substances around the body. And component of the blood plasma. Mostly water consists of the blood plasma. 90 to 92% water consists of the blood plasma, and other components are the proteins. Protein likes albumin, globulin and the fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is a blood clotting factors. And electrolytes like sodium, potassium, chloride, etc. and nutrient, glucose, amino acid and waste product, urea, creatinine and gases like the carbon dioxide and the oxygens composed of the blood plasma. Functions of the plasma. There are the various types of the functions of the plasma. They are: number 1, transportation. Plasma in the blood helps to transport the nutrients, electrolytes, hormones and other important substances throughout the body. It also helps to remove the waste products by transporting them to the liver, lungs, kidney or the skin. Next, the coagulation. Many important proteins such as the fibrinogen, thrombin and the factor 10 are present in the plasma and play a vital role in the clotting process to stop a person from the bleeding. Next, the body temperature maintenance. Plasma helps maintain the body temperature by balancing the heat loss and heat gain in the body. And next, the immunity. Blood plasma contains the disease-fighting proteins such as the antibodies and the immunoglobulins, which play a crucial role in the immune system by fighting the pathogens. And blood pressure and the volume maintenance. A protein present in the plasma called the albumin helps to maintain the oncotic pressure, and this prevents fluid from leaking into the areas of the body and the skin where less fluid usually collects. This also helps ensure the blood flow through the blood vessels. pH balance. Substances present in the blood plasma act as a buffer and allowing the plasma to maintain a pH within the normal range, which helps to support the cell function. And 3 factors that regulate the pH in the blood plasma. These factors are the carbon dioxide and the relative electrolyte concentration and total weak acid concentration. All these changes in the blood pH in health and in disease occurs through the changes of these 3 factors or the variables. Question number 3. The solid part of the blood is called options: plasma, blood cells, vessels and the heart. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is the blood cells. Blood cells are the solid part of the blood. These are the blood cells and this is the liquid portions of the blood that is called the plasma. A blood cells also called a hematopoietic cells, hemocyte and the hematocyte, and blood cell produced through the hematopoiesis and found mainly in the blood. And major types of the blood cells. There are 3 types of the blood cells, that are number 1, red blood cells or the erythrocytes, and number 2, white blood cells or leukocytes, and number 3, the platelets or the thrombocytes. At first, the red blood cells. What is the red blood cells? Blood has been called the river of the life and transporting the various substances that must be carried to one part of the body or another, and red blood cells are an important element of the blood. What do red blood cells look like? That means the shape and size. The red blood cells are microscopic and biconcave disc, which is round with an indentation in the center, and it isn't hollow. Red blood cells don't have a nucleus like the white blood cells. And the diameter of the red blood cells approx 6 to 8 micrometers. This small size and the unique biconcave disc shape increases their flexibility and allows them to pass through the small capillaries in the body, and their unique shape also provides more surface area for the gas exchange, and it contains no intracellular organelles. That means the leaving more room for the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the major cytoplasmic protein in the RBC, and the cytoplasm of red blood cells is rich in hemoglobin. That means it is an iron containing biomolecules. The productions of the red blood cells. It is produced in the red bone marrow. Erythrocytes are produced in the red bone marrow, which is present in the ends of the long bones and in the flat and the irregular bones also, and they pass through the several stages of the development before entering the blood. And red bone marrow is the location where the production of the red blood cells and the platelet occurs, and most of the lymphocytes are also produced in it, and it surrounds the yellow bone marrow in the spongy portion of the bone. Ribs, sternum and the cranium are all the red bone marrow, and this is the tissue made up of the hematopoietic cells, and it is the producer of the blood cells. The hormone called the erythropoietin plays a role in it. And red marrow or the red bone marrow is found mainly in the flat bones, that are the hip bones, sternum, ribs, vertebra, shoulder blades, etc., and as well as in the metaphyseal and the epiphyseal ends of the long bones such as the femur, tibia, humerus, etc., where the bones is the cancellous or the spongy in nature. Question number 4. Which of the following is the function of hemoglobin? Options: storage of the oxygen, transport of oxygen, both of the above, and none of the above. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is transport of oxygen. This is the RBC and this is the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is large complex protein that contains a globular protein, that means the globin, and a pigmented iron containing complex called heme, and that makes the blood red in color. This is the oxygen molecules, and RBC carry, that means the transport the oxygen molecules with the help of hemoglobin molecules to the tissue and the cells. But how? So let's see the structure of the hemoglobin. The structure of the hemoglobin. Each hemoglobin molecules contains the 4 globin chain, that means the protein chain, 2 alpha chain and the 2 beta chain. 1 alpha chain, a alpha 1 chain, alpha 2 chain, beta 1 chain and beta 2 chain. So the 4 protein chain, and each protein chain with a ring like heme group. This is the heme group. So each chain contains one chain, that means each hemoglobin molecules have the 4 heme groups, and each heme groups has the 1 atom of the iron, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So each heme group contains 1 atom of the iron. So each atom of the iron can combine with an 1 oxygen molecules. That means a single hemoglobin molecules can carry up to 4 molecules of the oxygen because it has the 4 chains. So let's see. An average RBC carries about 270 to 280 million hemoglobin molecules, and giving each cells oxygen carrying capacity of over a billion of oxygen molecules. And next, what is the oxyhemoglobin and the saturation or the saturated? This is the RBC or the erythrocytes, and this is the hemoglobin. These 4 are the hemoglobin or the iron atom, and this hemoglobin combines with the oxygen molecules. When the 4 oxygen binding sites of the hemoglobin molecules are full, it is described as the saturated. As the oxygen content of the blood increases, its color changes too. and blood rich in the oxygen is the bright red in the color because of the high level of the oxyhemoglobin it contains, and compared with the blood with the lower oxygen levels, which is dark bluish in color because it was not saturated. So, hemoglobin binds reversibly to oxygen to form the oxyhemoglobin, and according to the equation, hemoglobin plus oxygen equal to oxyhemoglobin. Due to increased concentration of the oxyhemoglobin, arterial blood is the bright red in the color. And for better understanding the picture, this picture shows that the red blood cell, this is the red blood cells, and we all know that the one red blood cells containing 270 to 280 million hemoglobin molecules, and this is the oxygen from the lungs. Oxygen comes into the RBC and oxygen bonded with the hemoglobin molecules and create the oxyhemoglobin. And this oxyhemoglobin, from this oxyhemoglobin in the RBC, oxygen released to the tissue and the cells, but hemoglobin remains in the RBC. Question number 5. Where does hemopoiesis takes place? Options: lungs, pancreas, liver and bone marrow. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is the bone marrow. In the bone marrow, hemopoiesis takes place. This is the long bone and it is the marrow cavity, and it is the red bone marrow, and it is the yellow bone marrow, and it is the articular cartilage of the long bone. So, let's go. What is the hemopoiesis? Hemopoiesis or the hematopoiesis is the process of the formation of blood cellular components. All the blood cellular component, that means the RBC, WBC and the platelets, and they are derived from the pluripotent hemopoietic stem cells which is present in the bone marrow. That means hemopoiesis or the hematopoiesis is the process of the origin, development and the maturation of all the blood cells, and they are derived from the pluripotent hemopoietic stem cells in the bone marrow. Next, the stem cells. What is the stem cell? Stem cells are the body's raw materials cells, from which all the other cells with the specialized functions are generated. And under the right condition in the body or the laboratory, these stem cells divide to form the more cells called the daughter cells. And the stem cells has the 3 types. These 3 types are embryonic stem cells, adult stem cells and the pluripotent stem cells. And we need to discuss the pluripotent stem cells. So, let's go. The pluripotent stem cells. What is the pluripotent stem cells? Pluripotent stem cells are the primitive cells in the bone marrow that have the capacity to self-renew, which give rise to the blood cells, are called the pluripotent hemopoietic stem cells or the PHSC. That means the pluripotent stem cells are the cells that have the capacity to the self-renew by dividing and to develop into the 3 primary germ cell layers of the early embryo and therefore into all the cells of the adult body. Next, the CFUE. CFUE means the colony forming unit erythrocytes. These cells of these units develop into the erythrocytes. From these cells, erythrocytes or the RBC develop, and cells of the CFUE pass through the different stages and finally become the matured RBC. That means after different stages passing, the CFUE cells finally become the matured RBCs. And next, these pictures, hemopoiesis. This is the pictures of the hemopoiesis. This is the blood stem cells, that means the pluripotent blood stem cells, and from these pluripotent blood stem cells the myeloid stem cells originate, and from these myeloid stem cells erythrocytes and the platelets form. And these myeloid stem cells form the myeloblast also, and from the myeloblast basophil, neutrophils, eosinophil and the monocyte, which are the types of the WBC, are formed. And from the pluripotent stem cells lymphoid stem cells originate, and from the lymphoid stem cell lymphoblast is originate, and from the lymphoblast T lymphocyte and the B lymphocyte formation occurs. This is the hemopoiesis. Question number 6. The process of RBC formation and the maturation is called. Options: the erythropoiesis, leukopoiesis, hemopoiesis and erythropoietic. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is the erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis is the process of RBC formation and the maturation. What is the erythropoiesis? Erythropoiesis, erythro means red and the poiesis means the formation. So it is the process by which the RBC develop from the erythropoietic stem cell to the mature RBC. That means it is the process by which the erythropoietic stem cell form to the mature RBC, and it takes times approx 7 to 9 days. Site of the erythropoiesis. In the fetus, it occurs in the yolk sac, liver, spleen and the bone marrow. In children, it occurs in the bone marrow of all the bones. And in the adult, it occurs in the sternum, ribs, vertebra, cranium, pectoral girdle, pelvis and upper end of the humerus and the femur, etc. And it was previously discussed. Important changes in the erythropoiesis. Major importance are: number 1, the reduction in the size of the cell, that means up to 25 microns to 7 microns diameter, and disappearance of the nucleoli and the nucleus, and appearance of the hemoglobin and changes in the properties of the cytoplasm. Mature erythrocyte or the RBC formation occurs by the different stages of the erythropoiesis. These stages are: at first, from the pluripotent stem cell. Pluripotent stem cell form the pro-erythroblast or the pro-normoblast, and from the pro-normoblast, early normoblast, intermediate normoblast and the late normoblast occurs. And late normoblast form the reticulocyte, and ultimate mature erythrocyte form from the reticulocytes. These stages up to this stage, it occurs in the bone marrow. In the bone marrow, and this stage, reticulocyte and the mature RBC, this stage occurs in the blood circulation. Occurs in the blood circulation, and the lifespan of the mature RBC are 120 days. So let's see these different stages of the erythropoiesis in one by one in detail. Pro-erythroblast or the pro-normoblast. It is a cell in the earliest stage of the erythropoiesis, and it is the first cell derived from CFUE, that means the colony forming unit erythroid. It has the large cell size and a diameter approx 20 microns, and nucleus is also large and occupies the cell almost completely, and nucleus has 2 or more nucleolus and a reticular network. 2 or more nucleolus and a reticular network, and it does not contain hemoglobin, and it multiplies the several times and finally forms a cell of the next stage, that is the early normoblast. Early normoblast. The cell is smaller than the pro-erythroblast or the pro-normoblast with a cell diameter of about 15 microns. In the nucleus, the nucleoli or the nucleolus disappear and the condensation of the chromatin network occurs and the condensed network become dense and the cytoplasm is the basophilic in the nature. Basophilic means readily stained with a basic dyes and hence the cell is also called as the basophilic erythroblast, and the cell develops into the next stage called the intermediate normoblast. Intermediate normoblast. The cell is smaller than early normoblast and with a diameter of 10 to 12 microns, and here the nucleus is still present but the chromatin network shows the further condensation and the hemoglobin starts appearing and the cytoplasm is already basophilic in nature and the cell develops into the next stage called the late normoblast. Late normoblast. Here the cell size further decreases and it is about 8 to 9 microns, and here the nucleus become very small with very much condensed chromatin network and it is known as the ink spot nucleus, and quantity of the hemoglobin increases and in the final stage of the late normoblast, just before it passes to the next stage, and the nucleus disintegrate and disappear, and the process by which the nucleus disappears is called the pycnosis and it is the pycnotic nucleus. Pycnotic nucleus means a degenerative condition of a cell nucleus marked by the clumping of the chromosomes, hyperchromatism and the shrinking of the nucleus. Reticulocytes. Reticulocytes are non-nucleated immature red blood cells that are still developing and they are known as the immature RBC. It is slightly larger than the matured RBC, and reticulocytes made and develop in the bone marrow and then circulate in the blood stream. That means they develop and mature in the bone marrow and then circulate for about a day in the bloodstream before developing into the matured RBC. About 2 days after they form, they develop into the mature RBC. The cytoplasm contains the reticular network. It contains the reticular network. Due to the presence of this reticular network, it is called the reticulocytes. An increase or decrease in the reticulocyte count can be an indicator of the erythropoiesis activity or the failure, especially relative to the anemia and the bone marrow dysfunctions. Next and the last stage, that is the matured erythrocytes. Here reticular network disappear and the cell becomes the matured RBC and attain the biconcave shape. This is the biconcave shape, and the cell size decreases and it is 7.2 microns in the diameter, and the matured RBC is with the hemoglobins but without the nucleus, and it requires approx 7 days for the development and the maturation of the RBC from the pro-erythroblast, and within 7 days 5 days required up to the stage of the reticulocytes, and then reticulocytes takes the 2 more days to become the matured RBC. So these are all the stages of the erythropoiesis. So let's see what are the major events during the different stages of the erythropoiesis. Here the stages of the erythropoiesis and here the major events. In the pro-erythroblast stage, here pro-erythroblast stage, the synthesis of the hemoglobin starts, and in the early normoblast stage, here the nucleoli, that means the nucleolus disappears, and in the intermediate normoblast stage, here the hemoglobin starts appearing, and in the late Normoblast stage, here the nucleus disappears, and in the reticulocyte, stage, reticulum is formed, and here the cell enters the capillary, that means the blood capillary from the site of the production, that means the bone marrow. And in the matured RBC stage, here the reticulum disappears and cell means the cell attains the biconcavity. Question number 7. What would happen to RBC if the heme group were removed from hemoglobin? Options: blood clot formations would be inhibited, RBC would not be able to bind oxygen, and WBC would not be able to reproduce, and RBC would not be able to reproduce. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is the RBC would not be able to bind oxygen. Question number 8. Red cell count is carried out by options: glucometer, hemocytometer, hemoglobinometer, and sphygmomanometer. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is the hemocytometer. What is the hemocytometer? Hemocytometer is a small glass chamber resembling a thick microscope slide used for determining the number of the cells per unit volume of the suspensions. Originally, it is used for performing the blood cell counts. Next, the hemoglobinometer. Hemoglobinometer is an instrument used to determine the hemoglobin content of the blood. Glucometer. It is a small device called the glucose meter or the glucometer. It measures how much sugar is in your blood. And sphygmomanometer. Sphygmomanometer, it is the blood pressure measuring instrument. Question number 9. Number of the RBC in man increases on living at the high altitude. Why? Options: there is more oxygen, there is less oxygen, there are no germs in the air, and more heat is needed to warm the bodies. What is the right answer? The right answer is the option B. There is less oxygen. RBC contain hemoglobin, which binds to oxygen and helps in its transport and delivery to the muscles, tissue, and the organs. And the process of the formation of RBC is called the erythropoiesis, which is previously discussed. It is stimulated, that means erythropoiesis is stimulated by decreased oxygen content in the circulation, and which is detected by the kidney, and which then secretes the hormone erythropoietin, and which in turn stimulates the proliferation and the differentiation of the red cell precursors. So, at the high altitude, when the oxygen content is low, and this stimulates the release of the erythropoietin, which result in the increased number of the RBC production. Question number 10. What is the normal value of the hemoglobin in our blood? Options: 2 to 3 gram per 100 ml of the blood, 11 to 18 gram per 100 ml of the blood, and 4.5 to 6.5 million per cubic millimeter of the blood, and 30 to 35 gram per 100 ml of the red cells. What is the right answer? Yes, the right answer is option B, 11 to 18 gram per 100 ml of the blood. So, let's see the normal value of the different measures of the erythrocytes. At first, the erythrocyte count. Erythrocyte count, what is the meaning of the erythrocyte count? That is the number of the erythrocytes per liter of the blood or the cubic millimeter of the blood. Normal value of the erythrocyte count in the male 4.5 to 6.5 million per cubic millimeter of the blood, and in the female 3.8 to 5.8 million per cubic millimeter of the blood. Hemoglobin. What is the meaning of the hemoglobin measurement? the weight of the hemoglobin in the whole blood and measured in the grams per 100 ml of the blood. Here in the male, hemoglobin, normal level of the hemoglobin in the male is 13 to 18 gram per 100 ml of the blood, and in the female 11.5 to 16.5 gram per 100 ml of the blood. Mean cell hemoglobin, that means the MCH. The meaning of the MCH is the average amount of the hemoglobin per cell, and it is measured in the pictograms. The normal value of the MCH is 27 to 32 pictogram per cell, and mean cell hemoglobin concentration, that is the MCHC. The meaning of the MCHC is the weight of the hemoglobin in 100 ml of the red cells. The normal value of the MCHC is the 30 to 35 gram per 100 ml of the red cells. So, the option B is the right answer. At a glance, we can say that the liquid part of the blood is called the plasma, and the blood cells composed the solid part of the blood, and three types of the blood cells, that are RBC, WBC and the platelets. Process of the formation and development of the blood cells are called the hemopoiesis, and process of the formation and development of the RBC are called the erythropoiesis, and hormones and the dietary factors plays a vital role in hemopoiesis. Dietary factors means the iron containing diet. Iron containing diet plays a vital role in the hemopoiesis. So, thank you.